On an early summer morning of an unparticular day in July of 2017, I got awoken by my parents. Have you ever had a feeling of dread build in the pit of your stomach before you knew why it was there? Well, that's how I felt looking into my eyes as my parents awoke my brother and I. They then informed us that they were urging us to pack because my cousin Holly got in a car accident and she was in the hospital in Nebraska. We have to go visit her. I was confused why we would be going to visit her in the hospital if she was just in a car accident, but she was still alive. Keep in mind, I was only 9 at the time, so of course my mom wouldn't tell me that my cousin is dying. As we were traveling on the way to the hospital, I noticed that my grandma and parents were talking nonstop about the situation, which left me wondering if it wasn't so extreme, why would they be talking about it for hours on end? Upon arriving to the hospital, my cousin's sister rushed into my mother's arms bawling, and that's when I started to piece together that everything in fact wasn't okay. That's when I stared up into the face of the ICU. I turned to my dad and I asked, well, what does this mean? And he said, intensive care unit. And I asked, well, is that good or bad? And he said, bad. And bad it was. At around 1:08 a.m. that dreadful Sunday morning, my cousin Holly and her boyfriend Aaron were traveling home from a local concert to get to his parents' home. As Aaron was driving along the dirt road, his pickup lost control and rolled multiple times. From my understanding, both were ejected through the windshield, and Aaron was pronounced dead immediately on the scene. My cousin Holly was life watched from a Cook Community Hospital to the Good Samaritan Hospital in Kearney. Neither were wearing seatbelts, and both speed and alcohol were investigated as cause of the accident. While much information isn't known about what went down, we know that a choice was made. A choice that could have made the difference between life and death. They chose not to wear seatbelts. This small decision didn't just end up killing both of them, but it killed a piece of so many of us, including myself. Holly fought on her deathbed for almost a week, but the extent of her injuries were just too big for her to continue on. The impact of her flying out the windshield due to no seatbelt caused massive brain swelling, along with other major injuries. Unfortunately, after becoming brain dead and much fighting, she died on July 15th with my whole family surrounding her. Watching her leave me before my eyes has been one of the hardest, if not the hardest things I've ever gone through. Knowing that this car accident could have been preventable, but that even if it wasn't inevitable, using a seatbelt could have saved our family from so much pain and grief has me urging all of you to decide diligently. It takes a second, not even, to pull that safety mechanism across your body and click it into place. If that's the case, that it takes not even a split second to buckle up, then why do so many of us choose not to? Well, aside from pure laziness, our reasons may seem valid, but are actually just based on faulty logic. Reasons for not buckling up may include, but aren't limited to, forgetting, not planning on traveling far, going to a party, or simply that it was just too uncomfortable. According to an NVOSS study, the primary reason occasional seatbelt users fail to buckle up is that they aren't planning on traveling a long distance, and over half also stated that they just simply forgot. For those who never wear a seatbelt, the most commonly cited reason is that it was just too uncomfortable for them. Whatever the excuse is, seatbelts are for safety, especially with newer drivers such as teenagers. So, what is the leading cause of death in teens such as my cousin? As you can imagine, the #1 killer of teenagers are car accidents and motor vehicle fatalities. According to BetterHelp.com, motor vehicle accidents make up over 15% of all accident-related deaths in adolescents, making it the leading cause of death overall. When surveyed, every 1 in 4 teenagers do say that they don't buckle up on every ride. In 2020 alone, over 51% of all car crash deaths have been linked back to the use of no seatbelt, and 9.2% of people say that they don't even bother to buckle up when traveling on a short ride. Using a seatbelt properly can often be the difference between walking away from an accident and suffering significant injuries and sometimes even death. This leads us to the question of simply, how have seatbelts saved lives? Well, for starters, each year, an estimated 15,000 lives have been saved by wearing a seatbelt. And only 1% of passengers wearing a seatbelt have been ejected from the car during a crash. The National Highway Traffic Administration estimates that nearly 375,000 people have been saved by seatbelt use since 1975. For drivers or front seat passengers in a passenger car, wearing a seatbelt can reduce your fatal injury risk by 45%, and it also cuts your odds of sustaining a moderate to critical injury by 50%. The numbers are even better with a small truck, as it decreases your fatal injury risk by 60% and of a moderate to critical injury by 65%. According to the National Highway Safety Administration, out of 23,824 people killed in car crashes, over half were not wearing a seatbelt. And then, however, it's not just drivers that need to wear seatbelts. And that was a 4% increase from 2019. However, it's not just drivers that need to wear seatbelts. According to an Insurance Institute for Highway Safety report, an unbelted rear seat passenger sitting behind a belted driver increases the risk of death to the driver significantly than if the rear seat passenger was belted. Lastly, in 2017, an estimated 2,549 people were killed could have survived fatal car crashes if they had just been wearing a seatbelt. And among those fatalities that year was my cousin's life. The bottom line is that wearing a seatbelt can drastically improve your chances of surviving a car crash. You may not think that a polyester strap and a plastic and metal buckle can do much to protect you in a car accident, but as we've seen, the statistics don't lie. So next time you don't feel like buckling up for whatever the reason, do it anyway. It might be inconvenient, annoying, or may even seem stupid for such a short amount of time. In that case, don't just do it for yourself. Do it for those who care, do it for the ones you love, and do it for your future. Thank you.